Level 1, the applicant. You apply to U.S. Customs and Border Protection, not Border Patrol, the other side of the agency, the one that works the actual ports of entry. Airports, land border crossings, seaports. The face people see first when they enter the country legally, and the last line standing when someone tries not to. The process is long before it's anything else. The written exam tests judgment, reasoning, basic legal knowledge. You pass. The physical fitness test, push-ups, sit-ups, a timed run. You pass that too. Then the part that actually weeds people out. The background investigation, months long, combing through every address, every job, every relationship you've ever had. A polygraph that asks about drug use, financial trouble, foreign contacts, anything that makes you a liability instead of an asset. You answer honestly. It still feels like an interrogation. A panel interview follows, scenario-based questions. What would you do if a traveler became aggressive? What would you do if you suspected a colleague of corruption? They're not looking for the right answer so much as the right instincts. 10 months after you applied, the offer comes. CBP officer, GS5, with the possibility of qualifying higher based on your education. You're 23 years old. You report to the academy in 6 weeks. Your family asks what exactly a customs officer does. You realize you're not entirely sure yet either. Level 2, the trainee. The CBP Officer Academy, Glencoe, Georgia. 17 weeks, shared classrooms with half a dozen other federal agencies training on the same campus. Because in some sense you're all learning the same foundation, the law, and how to apply it to a stranger in front of you in under 60 seconds. You study immigration law, customs law, agricultural regulations, currency reporting requirements, intellectual property enforcement. The sheer breadth of what falls under your authority is staggering. A customs officer isn't just checking passports. You're checking for narcotics, for undeclared currency, for counterfeit goods, for invasive agricultural pests, for human trafficking indicators, for terrorism risk, sometimes all in the same conversation with the same traveler. You train on document examination, how to spot an altered passport, a photo-substituted visa, a birth certificate that's almost right but not quite. You learn interview techniques, the difference between nervousness from travel and nervousness from something else, and how easily the two get confused by an inexperienced officer. You qualify on firearms. You train in defensive tactics, vehicle searches, secondary inspection procedures. You run scenarios, instructors playing nervous tourists, playing smugglers, playing travelers with a story that doesn't quite hold together if you ask the right second question. You graduate. Your family attends. You're sworn in. CBP officer, GS5 stepping into GS7 within the year. $36,000 a year to start. You're assigned to a land border port of entry, one of the busiest in the country. Your training officer's name is Esposito. 11 years on the line. You start Monday. Level 3, the CBP officer. Your first shift, primary inspection booth, land border crossing. Esposito works the next lane over, close enough to step in, far enough that you're the one making every call. The volume is the first thing that surprises you, hundreds of vehicles an hour, a rhythm you have to find fast or you become the bottleneck the whole port feels. Most encounters last under a minute. Passport, a few questions, a decision, admit, or refer to secondary. Your first referral comes on day 4. A driver's answers don't line up. Purpose of travel doesn't match his paperwork. A hesitation half a second too long on a question that should be automatic. You refer him to secondary. Esposito nods at you on your way back to the booth. Trust the hesitation, he tells you later. It's almost always the thing that matters. Secondary inspection turns up a hidden compartment behind the rear seat. 60 pounds of marijuana, vacuum sealed. Your first seizure. You process the paperwork, the chain of custody, the federal charges. The driver is arrested. You did everything by the book. It doesn't feel like a movie. It feels like exactly what you were trained to do, which is its own kind of satisfying. A month in, a different referral, an infant traveling with an adult who isn't a parent, no clear documentation establishing the relationship. You ask the questions you're trained to ask. The story doesn't hold. You escalate immediately. It turns out to be a legitimate custody arrangement with paperwork the traveler simply forgot to bring, resolved within the hour, no harm done. But Esposito tells you afterward that escalating that fast, even when it turns out fine, is exactly the instinct that catches the cases where it isn't fine. You work agricultural inspection rotations too, a traveler with fruit packed in a suitcase that turns out to be carrying an invasive insect species that could devastate regional crops if it got past you. Nobody outside the agency will ever know that interception happened. It's part of the job that never makes the news and matters anyway. You're 24 years old, $39,000 a year. You're starting to understand that this job is equal parts law enforcement, agriculture, and reading people, and that none of those three things works without the other two. Level 4. The Senior CBP Officer. 3 years in, you're promoted, Senior CBP Officer, GS11. You've moved past primary into specialized rotations, secondary inspection lead, currency enforcement, sometimes assigned to the K9 unit's human partner rotation, working alongside a detector dog and its handler on high-traffic days. The cases get more serious at this level, because by now you're the one other officers refer their hardest calls to. A traveler carrying $40,000 in undeclared cash, structured suspiciously across multiple bags, a currency violation, potentially tied to something larger. You build the report carefully. It gets forwarded to investigators. You never find out how the larger case resolves. That's normal. You plant seeds for cases you'll never see bloom. A seizure goes differently one night, a vehicle in secondary, a driver who becomes agitated, then aggressive, reaching toward the center console as you approach. Your training takes over before your thoughts catch up. You give commands, you create distance, backup arrives within seconds. The driver is taken into custody without anyone getting hurt. Afterward, your hands are steady at the scene and shaking 20 minutes later in the break room, which Esposito tells you is completely normal and never fully goes away, no matter how many years you do this. You intercept a counterfeit goods shipment, thousands of fake luxury handbags and pharmaceuticals, the pharmaceuticals being the part that actually worries you, because counterfeit medication kills people in ways nobody connects back to a customs seizure months later. You're 27 years old, Senior CBP Officer, $58,000 a year. You've started mentoring incoming officers the way Esposito mentored you. You've also started noticing, for the first time, how much of this job lives in your head even after your shift ends. Level 5. The Supervisory CBP Officer. 6 years in, you passed the supervisory exam. Supervisory CBPO, GS12. You run a shift now, a dozen officers across primary and secondary, responsible for their assignments, their safety, their performance. You make staffing calls during a holiday surge, the worst travel days of the year, vehicle lines backed up for miles, every officer stretched thin and every traveler furious about the wait. You hold the line moving without letting moving turn into careless, because the surge is exactly when something dangerous is most likely to slip through unnoticed. One of your officers makes a missed call, waves through a vehicle that secondary later determines should have been referred. Nothing catastrophic results, but it's a real miss. You review it with him not as a punishment but as the exact kind of conversation Esposito once had with you about a hesitation you almost didn't trust. He's shaken. You tell him everyone misses one eventually. What matters is what he does with the next 100 calls. A serious incident lands on your shift. A human trafficking indicator flagged in secondary. A minor traveling with an adult whose story falls apart under careful questioning, real this time. You coordinate with Homeland Security investigations, you secure the minor's safety, you build the case alongside specialists who do this work full-time. It resolves the way you hoped it would. Not every case at this level does. You're 31 years old, Supervisory CBPO, $79,000 a year. You've stopped working primary inspection almost entirely. You miss the rhythm of it some days, the simplicity of one traveler, one decision, 1 minute at a time. Level 6, the Chief CBP Officer. 10 years in, you're promoted, Chief CBPO, GS-13. You're watch commander now, responsible for an entire shift's operation across every lane, every specialty unit, every officer on duty when you're up. You manage the port's response to a major disruption. A winter storm shutting down half the crossing lanes while traffic backs up for hours on both sides of the border. You coordinate with the port director, with the opposing country's customs authority, with state police managing the highway approach. You keep the port functioning through 14 straight hours on your feet, making calls nobody above you wants to make in the moment because they're all bad options and you have to pick the least bad one. You investigate use of force incidents now when they happen on your shift, reviewing body-worn camera footage statements, ensuring every action your officers took matches both policy and the reality they were actually facing in the moment. Most reviews clear cleanly. The job at this level means sitting with the ones that don't, and being honest about it even when honesty is uncomfortable. You coordinate a joint operation with Immigration and Customs Enforcement and the DA, months of intelligence work converging on a single night, coordinated vehicle stops across multiple lanes timed to the minute, a smuggling network moving product through legitimate commercial freight. 40 arrests. Hundreds of kilograms seized. Your port's intelligence contributed to a piece of something much larger than your own shift will ever fully see the shape of. You're 36 years old, Chief CBP Officer, $98,000 a year. Esposito retired 2 years ago. You still call him sometimes when a decision feels heavier than the manual makes it sound. Level 7, the Assistant Port Director. 15 years in, you're promoted into the port's senior leadership, Assistant Port Director, GS-14. You oversee operations for the entire facility now, every shift, every specialty function, every officer, reporting directly to the Port Director. You manage the port's modernization, new technology rollouts, non-intrusive inspection systems, automated license plate readers, biometric exit verification. You brief CBP headquarters on operational readiness. You testify, occasionally, in port-related congressional briefings about staffing shortages and wait times that frustrate the traveling public and the officers working the lanes equally. A major incident tests the whole port. A credible threat related to the crossing forces a partial shutdown during peak hours, coordinating with the FBI, with both countries' authorities, with state and local police, for 18 hours until the threat is resolved and cleared. International commerce and millions of dollars in cross-border trade sit waiting on decisions you're making in a command room with too much coffee and not enough sleep. You handle the human side of leadership too, an officer struggling after a difficult seizure involving a child victim, more affected than he's letting on. You make sure he gets support instead of just absorbing it the way officers a generation before him were expected to. The job has changed in that respect, slowly, and you're part of why. You're 41 years old, Assistant Port Director, $125,000 a year. The Port Director position is 2 years from opening up, and everyone, including you, already knows where that's heading. Level 8, the Port Director. 20 years in, you're appointed Port Director, the senior CBP official for the entire facility, accountable for everything that crosses through it, legally or otherwise. You manage a budget in the tens of millions. You oversee hundreds of officers across every shift and specialty. You brief CBP's Director of Field Operations regularly, and occasionally officials considerably further up the chain when something at your port becomes a national conversation instead of a local one. You navigate the politics that come with the job at this level, trade disruptions, diplomatic friction with the country on the other side of your crossing, community concerns about wait times and economic impact, media inquiries every time something goes wrong publicly and almost never when 1,000 things go right quietly. A major operation unfolds at your port, months of joint intelligence work culminating in the interdiction of a significant fentanyl shipment hidden in commercial cargo, the kind of seizure that makes national news for a single news cycle and then disappears from public attention, while the actual consequences, lives that won't be lost to that batch, never get reported anywhere at all. You think back to your first shift in a primary booth, Esposito 1 lane over, the rhythm of hundreds of vehicles an hour that felt impossible to find at first, and became second nature within weeks. You've trained officers who are chiefs now themselves. The port runs the way it does because of decisions you made years before most of your current staff ever applied. You're 48 years old, port director, $165,000 a year. The responsibility never fully turns off, even on the rare day you manage to leave it at the office. Level 9, the retired customs officer. 26 years with CBP. You retire. There's a ceremony at the port. Officers from every shift, every rotation you've ever supervised, gathered in a room that's seen more of your life than most of the rooms in your actual house. You think about the seizures, the referrals, the thousands of ordinary travelers who passed through your lane in under a minute and never thought about you again afterward, which is exactly how it's supposed to work. You think about the cases that didn't resolve cleanly, the ones you still wonder about. You think about the infant with the custody paperwork, the trafficking case that ended the right way, the agricultural interception nobody will ever know mattered. You call Esposito the week after the ceremony. He laughs, asks if you finally understand now what 11 years on the line actually does to a person. You tell him you do. He tells you it only gets clearer from here. You travel for the first time without a badge in your pocket, through airports, through land crossings, standing in the same lines you used to run, watching young officers ask the same questions you once asked in the exact same patient, practice rhythm. You don't tell them who you are. You just notice the hesitation in a traveler's answer half a second before the officer does, and feel something settle in your chest, quiet and satisfied, that you can't fully turn off even now. Somewhere right now, a 23-year-old is sitting through a federal interview, trying to explain why they want this job, not entirely sure themselves yet what a customs officer actually does day to day. They have no idea how much of the world is going to pass in front of them in the next several decades, how much of it they'll wave through without a second thought, and how much of it they'll catch because of one extra question, one hesitation they learned to trust. They'll find out the way you did. One lane, one traveler, one decision at a time. The border never closes. Someone has to stand at the line and decide,